So falling in line with the 5-star that came out for this event is the 4-star Berserker, and both of these units are just kind of solid on their own. They're not doing anything super special or unique, but they're just kind of good new units that are in the game, but they're not really breaking the game in any way, if you know what I'm saying. I know some people thought I might have been a little bit like harsh on the Rider guy, but believe me, I actually don't hate him. I summoned for him. You know, the dude's got drip, and I also wanted to get this Berserker over here until we found out that we're probably going to be getting a new Kagetora for Banner 2. But regardless, both of these units are very solid in their own right. You can get some mileage out of them. And I do think I like the Berserker a little bit more. I think it's unfortunate that the Rider is AoE. I think he would have been an absolute killer as a single target unit, but even then, while I do like how this Berserker is built, he kind of just feels like a 4-star version of Mori, and we'll get into that more as we talk in this video. But if you have not already, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel for that sweet daily FGO content where your boy's going to make sure that you are up to date on the goings on both versions of the game. And if you want to see me play FGO, I do that every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as long as my Wi-Fi doesn't go out again, because I was supposed to stream on Thursday, but I guess that just wasn't in the cards. But enough dilly-dallying, let's start moving into this guy's kit, starting off with his hits, and you'll have to forgive me, his name is very close to the Bleach character Kenpachi, and I might just call him Kenpachi, because he's a big buff dude like Kenpachi from Bleach, and you know, some of you guys might know, I'm a little bit of a Bleach fan myself. That also might explain why I'm not able to read, but that's besides the point. Looking at his hits, he's a pretty typical Berserker. Bro is rocking a triple buster deck, a 6-hit extra attack, which you know we love to see, and then fairly strong NP gain over here at 0.67% with a 3-hit arts card. That's not going to be all that bad, but there's nothing really to back that up from like passives, like no passive arts buffs or anything, but you should get decent enough NP refund on this if you're able to get crits on it, especially if you're going to use him in like kind of a solo fashion and you want to do mighty chains. It should function semi-well. He does have some pretty decent survivability if you want to take him that route, or if you want to use him with Koyenskaya. Because he has the triple buster cards and Koyenskaya allows you to generate raw NP on your buster cards, you'll see some success with him. I think Koyenskaya, one of the slept on things that she does for these triple buster type units is that she helps out their NP gain a lot, because she pretty much gives every buster unit the Galatea 3rd skill, which we already know how much that helped her out. But regardless, there's nothing super crazy going on with his hits, but they're just all very solid. Nothing is like, you know, insane aside from, I guess, the 6-hit extra attack, but, you know, go for that append skill if you wish. The real power for this guy is going to be in his skills, starting off with skill 1 over here, which is going to give him a 30% buster buff for 3 turns, and then he's going to get a buff that every time he gets hit, he's going to drop 10 stars and then give himself guts 1 time for 3 turns on a 6-turn cooldown. This is very interesting because, you know, the buster buff is going to be very good. It's just going to allow him to do good, decent enough damage. But then I love the idea that he has this on buff type thing where he's going to get stars every time he gets hit, so theoretically he gets clapped up and then could drop 30 stars in a turn, you know, if you're using him as a solo guy. But that would be a death sentence for most people because he's a Berserker, right? He's going to take mad damage from anybody, but they at least gave him the guts for this, which I think tailors him to like a very aggressive style of gameplay, which is also what you can do with Mori. Like, Mori's really good for that because you can just start stacking insane buffs on your enemies and you start getting massive attack buffs. So you just start just mowing people down. But I'm not sure how much I personally like it. It might be a little too aggressive for how I like to play FGO, but if you really just want to go in there and you're just bombing 30 stars every turn, as long as you can keep bro alive, I think it'll be very, very fun to play around with. I don't know if it's the best thing you should be doing, but it definitely sounds very fun. And in some little bits of testing you see in the background, it is a little bit fun for me as I'm kind of going through and playing with it. Now, the second skill over here is just that extra bit of survivability that I was kind of mentioning earlier, that the guy does have multiple forms of keeping himself around. I like the idea that you don't even have to use this to dodge an NP. If you're using him as a solo servant, you can just use this to get another free turn of just big damage, 30 stars, because he got hit thrice. Again, assuming that they don't pop any skills and, you know, they do actually attack you 3 times. But it is also nice that, you know, if you do want to dodge an NP or you just need to stick around for an extra turn, he has another metric of survivability that's not tied to the burst actual Berserker first skill. That also gives him 18% defense for 3 turns. I don't really think that's going to come up all that much. I mean, 18% is not really all that crazy, but hey, if you're going to pair him with like Bedivere or Mash or something along those lines, Waver even, Chen Gong is a solid option. Getting that extra defense might let him live a couple of extra hits if you start stacking it up a little bit, you know, give him the Cure ACE, make him real bulky. You could kind of get some mileage out of it if you really wanted to look into it. But then finally, there's his third skill, which, you know, if you didn't think you had enough stars in circulation, this guy's immediately going to bomb 10 stars. And take note that it is on a 4-turn cooldown. Then give himself 100% crit damage and 5,000% buster star weight, which, again, he's got 3 of them. So even if you're using him with, like, say, double Koyanskaya Merlin, whoever, they're not taking this guy's stars away from him. Because if you don't know, Berserkers have a notoriously low star weight stat because it might be a little too good if they also just fiended for all the stars a little too easily because, you know, they're super effective against everybody. And so often if you're using them around, you know, say support casters, support assassins, really anybody with decent star weight, they're going to have to really fight tooth and nail to get all of those stars. But when you give them 5,000% star weight, it's crazy. Now, some people might be like, but it's only for 1 turn. It's just going to be big burst damage, which usually I'm not the biggest fan of. But 1, it's already on a 4-turn cooldown, and 2, they could use Koyanskaya with this guy because she is kind of like the premier buster support type servant, and she already lowers cooldown by 2 on her battery. And over the course of a fight, you can actually kind of extend those out, maybe over the course of a couple different turns, to really just start looping this skill very easily. Or you could just immediately loop it back after the first turn and then just go absolutely ham taro on someone. Because do not misunderstand, that is 100% free critical damage that you're getting. That is Merlin's hero creation, right? Like, if you need a just good metric for how hard you're going to be hitting with this, that's how hard. And this is on a Berserker. Bring him against anybody, they're going to get smacked unless it's like a foreigner or something. But why would you do that to your man Kenpachi over here? Don't do that to him. Look at him, he's just a nice old man. Don't do him dirty like that. But then we roll over to his NP, which just gets even more ridiculous because you know how we were talking about that 100% crit damage? Well, you fire his NP, boom, take another 100% crit damage and remove their evasion buffs. It's not as good as like pure, you know, buff removal or anything, but hey, it's still nice. Evasion is a common form of survivability for not only servants, but also just random mob enemies you'll be fighting. So that's good. You can get around that at the very least, especially if you know the enemy's going to be using that going into it. Say you're fighting like a Ku or a Fergus, someone you know has a dodge buff, a Skahawk even. I don't know why I just had it out for like all the Celtic servants there. There's definitely other guys that have dodges, but I don't know why all the Celtic guys were the ones that came to mind. But then even on top of that, he's giving himself a 20% buster buff, meaning if you combine that with his first skill, he's got a buster mana burst, right? And that's going to be very, very strong. And the idea here is that you could do like a buster brave chain fairly easily because he's got triple buster cards. Pop the third skill, pop the first skill, get that 50% buster mana burst, get 200% crit damage, and then the following buster cards are just going to ravage whoever they hit, if they're not already just obliterated from the NP, which, to be fair, is a little bit of a tall favor to ask. The NP does some decent damage, but it's not like the craziest thing you've ever seen. Like, his NP damage numbers are kind of respectable. They're okay, but nothing super insane. But that, I think, is because he kind of has that Takasugi type vibe going on, where when Takasugi dropped, a lot of people were like, where are the power mods? Where's all the extra bells and whistles? And it's like, well, for him, I guess the big stacking of crit damage was all of his bells and whistles, and they did the same thing for Kenpachi over here. You know, instead of having, you know, divinity power mod or having a anti-good power mod or something along those lines, he's just going to do good damage against everybody, which is why he kind of just feels like a 4-star version of Mori. It almost feels like instead of having to build up for that damage that Mori kind of has to do and has to play a little risky style of gameplay, Kenpachi just kind of runs out there and just obliterates people and has good free damage from the absolute start, right? And it's on a very low cooldown, and you still at least get the guaranteed 100% on just the NP alone, which is, again, still accessible as like hero creation, but just on an NP, it's ridiculous. Which is why I like this guy. I think he's very fun. I've kind of tested him out a little bit, as you guys can see in the background. I don't know if he'll be my go-to guy to use, especially because I don't have him as of right now. You know, fingers crossed that they'll throw him on that Rider Kagetora banner that's definitely coming, but we'll see about that one, because if I'm going to bring a friend Berserker, especially a single target buster Berserker, I'm probably just going to go out of my way to bring a friend Ku Alter or something. You know what I mean? But if I had my own, I might toy around with it with like some Merlin and some waiver strategies and kind of have fun that way. But we'll see. I think this guy definitely earns like a C plus ranking for me, which is not bad. Maybe even roll it back to just a normal C. C plus might be my Gouda bias kind of coming in. But I do think he is legitimately good, but he's missing out on stuff like a battery, another like NP gain buff, maybe something like Galatea's third skill to help him out if you want to use him in more solo content. Just something to give him that little bit of an extra kick. I don't think he really needs a power mod. I think 200%, free crit damage is probably going to be good enough. But I would say, slap on like a 30% battery or something, help him out. He's got a triple buster deck, and if you're like me and you don't have Koyanskaya, you might not be able to kind of rapidly get that NP back with all the buster cards. You might kind of be stuck a little bit. But then again, you probably should be finishing out the fight rather quickly with a 200% crit damage and her dumping batteries into you. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I think he is a fine servant, probably realistically like a C tier. And just to fix my Takeda ranking, by the way, I'm sorry, 7:30 in the morning, I was a little bit tired. Some of my actual emotions for like how Lisengel is going a little too, I guess, light on some of these servants did kind of slip out, but that dude is like a legitimate like B plus at the bare minimum servant. Like, he has all the tools he needs, and realistically, just give him like a power mod and he'll be like really strong in the future, right? Just give him something. He doesn't have to be a farming servant. It's just, it makes me upset that he doesn't really seem to slot into any spot. But if you were curious and you were upset about that, because I saw some of you guys' comments, some of you guys are upset, but, cry about it. I'm still going to voice my opinion, but I do admit I was a little bit on the harsh side with Takeda. So he'll get like a B+, and I'll probably put Kenpachi around like a C. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.